Has in recent weeks been thrown into the spotlight over reports of alleged mismanagement, mainly pointing to bad lending practices as well as nepotism. So is there truth to those allegations? Tonight we speak to the man at the helm of the National Bank of Kenya, Munir Ahmed. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. First things first, against that backdrop that Bella Genga has just given us, how have the last few weeks been for you and for the bank?
Well, on the business front, good. Doing as well as we've done for the last 2 years and continue to execute the strategy of transforming National Bank into a top-tier bank, which is our objective by 2017 to become a leading bank and in the top-tier range. As far as the media reports that you've alluded to is concerned, it comes to the territory, I think, and it's mere allegations, and as far as I'm concerned, entirely untrue.
Okay, and of course I want to talk a little bit about some of those allegations. You have said that there's been mudslinging, some people hell-bent on bringing down National Bank of Kenya. Who are these people?
No clue. I wish I knew who they are. Then probably we'll just call them in and have a conversation around why they have such venom and fabrications thrown at the bank. However, that's not of much importance to us. As far as we're concerned, the picture that's painted there cannot happen in a well-regulated industry as the banking industry is, and it can only come from a bit of misunderstanding how banking operates. There is no way that what has been put out there by whoever it is, and it really doesn't matter who it is, should not be appearing at all for from anyone who actually understands how banks operate and how they're regulated. It's just simply impossible for those things to happen. But
unfortunately, once information like that comes out for financial institutions, it is highly likely that members of the public, people who bank with NBK, are looking for answers. And I just want to find out what your response is to allegations of the National Bank of Kenya bosses awarding loans to their family members.
Again, that's totally untrue, and that's a fact. And to the extent that we believe that fact, we will take and challenge each and every media house or generator of those reports to bring the evidence to a court of law. And further, as you say, definitely yes, banking is susceptible to reputational damage, even when the stories are as blatantly untrue as these ones are, as when those information is true. So it doesn't matter whether the information is true or not, the impact it will have on a bank is the same. And in this case, the information is totally untrue. And it's defamatory, it's malicious, and therefore we'll challenge it in a court of law, and we have that level of confidence. In fact, we'll go beyond that. We've actually asked the Criminal Investigation Department to go after the people who have put out this report.
So do you know who those people are?
We have no clue. That's why we...
I know that you have taken the Nation Media Group to court, who published the articles, but do you know who supplied the national, the newspaper with the facts, so to speak?
I've got no clue. And that's why we've handed over to the people who've got the necessary instruments for finding out who's behind this. And that's because it's our fiduciary responsibility as well as our legal obligation as the managers in charge of the assets of our shareholders that we protect those assets. It's part of our responsibility, and that's why we're paid. And therefore, and it's also a listed company. So, and the investor in National Bank is the general public. We cannot therefore allow what we are sure is 100% pure fabrications to determine the fate of all those shareholders, employees, and customers' business. And that's why we've handed over to the law enforcement agency.
All right. And is it also a fabrication that you have awarded yourself a bonus without the approval of the board?
Taran, that's actually laughable if it wasn't such reputational damage. There's proper controls in place. We've got proper corporate governance in place. We've got financial control policies in place. We've got operational controls in place. There's oversight in place. No one can even approve his own expenditure, never mind awarding yourself a bonus or salary increase. That's inconceivable even in, I think, the smallest business, never mind a bank which has a high standard of regulations and controls in place. So it's, again, another piece of blatant lies.
What is the quality of your loan book today?
The quality of our loan book is 4% better than it was when I joined the bank. What we have and what we are battling with is a legacy book, which was which had a lot of non-performing component.
Yes.
The good news is we've since doubled, actually more than doubled our loan book from 22 billion when I joined to 65. Right now, actually, that's end of 2014, 65 billion, and now just around 70 billion. The book has got, as I said, 4% lower NPL. It's the ratio that matters, not the absolute quantum, because as the balance sheet grows, the quantum may grow. And most of that, as I said, is legacy book.
All right. So why is NBK yet to undertake the 13 billion shillings rights issue? The
rights issue was part of our strategic transformation program. When I came into National Bank, I came in with one brief. The first competitively recruited managing director of National Bank since its inception 48 years ago. The brief was transform National Bank into a top-tier status. And we've crafted a very elaborate strategic transformation program with the help of McKinsey and company. And a key component of that was raising additional capital to take forward that strategy. It's required, obviously, it's a regulatory capital requirement that you have a certain amount of equity for every deposit and every loan that you write. So it was part of our plan, and that's the whole purpose of the capital. We've already grown fully into the capital that we had. As I said, the balance sheet now is 123 billion at the end of 2014, and that sort of has utilized the regulatory capital that we had. And at the moment, we are growing at the pace of the organic capital that we can generate from our own operations.
But why hasn't the rights issue taken off?
Well, look, our role as management and board was to get approval from the shareholders. The shareholders did grant us the approval to raise additional capital in June 2013. In April 2014, we've submitted our IM, our prospectus, to Capital Markets Authority, and we are waiting for the approval. That's all I can say about that. As early as it comes, we're ready to utilize the capital. In the meantime, we're not out of capital. We're running the business comfortably at organic growth pace, both from the internally generated profits as well as the additional shoring up of capital. For instance, we retained our dividends last year. The entire profits were retained, and we've also decided to sell suboptimal assets.
Yes. I want to talk about the sale of assets, but also the consolidation, the talks of a possible merger, and, some people, or rather the grapevine, saying that there could be a consolidation in the offing, perhaps a merger with the Consolidated Bank and, one other financial institution owned by the government. What are your thoughts around that?
Essentially, first, those are proposals. I mean, National Bank was to be privatized, and it has been on the privatization list for a while now. It's additional proposals that have been put on the table that, in addition to the privatization, could we also have a look at possible mergers? And as I said, so far it's at proposal stage.
Is it something you would be keen on?
As the person who's now running the National Bank, we are happy to run with whatever the shareholders decide in terms of whether it's privatizing, in terms of merging, acquiring. So that's a shareholder decision. It will not in itself provide any additional challenge to us.
Would it be overshooting to say that perhaps the rights issue is being held until your bank is consolidated with other banks?
The two would not be dependent on each other from a technical perspective. It will require whether a merger happens or doesn't happen. In fact, the banks that are mentioned in these proposals already have got a capital requirement of their own. But in terms of scale, National Bank is actually the predominant big player in the three names. And therefore, the capital requirement for growth will still be there.
I'm sure you've had, people saying there's concerns that there could be individuals within and without the government keen on probably taking a large chunk of ownership of National Bank. Your thoughts?
One person who owns the bank is
the government.
Is an important thing to consider. The bank is largely owned by the government, 70% between NSF and National Treasury. So if anyone is keen on buying it, then the government must be the one selling, predominantly. Of course, there is 30% free play out there in the market, and those anyone can buy and they're daily available on the market. So if someone incentivizes the people who currently hold those shares and they're willing to sell, you can buy those. But the majority shares, 70%, is in the hands family of the government. So if there's any sale that needs to happen, it has to happen with the government's willingness to sell to that person or people or a strategic investor.
Going forward, you know, you've got a very strong background coming from Standard Chartered, from PwC as well?
Sure. I've worked in quite a few companies, but predominantly most of my time was at
Standard Chartered Bank.
Yeah.
So where do you want to take National Bank?
As I said, my brief was transform National Bank into top-tier status, and that has been the ambition. That is the goal, and we've been driving towards that. So far, making excellent progress. In fact, way ahead of where we expected to be at this stage of the transformation, which is just slightly over 2 years now. And I think we'll achieve that. We'll arrive there. 2017 is the target we set for ourselves. If the capital is in there, we'll definitely hit that figure. If the capital is not in there, we'll still hit top-tier status, but probably with a couple more years added to the timeline.
Who's the main target for National Bank?
The main target...
market.
The target market for National Bank is, we've got a universal banking license. So our objective actually runs right from retail, which provides the funding for required for lending, to corporate, to SME, and it also has got a small component of microfinance, which we've launched last year. So with the full spectrum of customer segments. That's our target market, and we believe we require those engines all to fire. Previously it was predominantly retail alone, and very little corporate sector, which was mainly public sector. But what we aim to have is SME, microfinance, retail, and corporate banking, so it's got many cylinders firing, and therefore diversified revenue stream.
You know, with all the things that's happening as we wind up, do you think you're the man to turn around National Bank of Kenya?
Definitely, not just myself. I've got a very strong team behind me. We haven't, there's no one-man show. It just can't be one-man show. At best, you're just the leader. You point, you give the vision, you provide the guidance and participate or lead.
But do you have a team that supports you? Do you believe in your
team? Yes,
team?
I've got a very strong team that supports me. The numbers speak for themselves. We've had 45% compounded annual growth rate on operating profits, year in, year out, 2 years in a row, 45% compounded annual growth rate, and balance sheet doubled to 123 billion over that 2-year period that we've executed the strategy. All that cannot happen in a vacuum. Therefore, that's why a lot of the stories are a bit distracting, but they don't really stay in our way, because our strategy, we're on course to achieve our objective. The results we've delivered so far are self-evident. Our cost-income ratio has come down by 10%. Our return on equity has gone to 2.5 times where it was in 2012. Our earnings per share similarly has doubled over that period. The numbers speak for themselves. Our staff are the people who have delivered that, and we thank our customers for ignoring all kinds of noises and staying the course with us. We're really grateful for very loyal customer base that we have.
All right. Munir Ahmed, the Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of National Bank of Kenya, telling us more about the health of the bank. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Well, and Michael Njenga is back with us now to take us through the business news.
Yes, Smart Farm. Now move on to Smart Farm.